اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الهم والحزن وأعوذ بك من العجز والكسل وأعوذ بك من الجبن والبخل وأعوذ بك من غلبة الدين.
اللهم إني أسألك العافية في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم إني أسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في ديني ودنياي وأهلي ومالي. اللهم استر عوراتي وأمن روحاتي.
اللهم أنت خلقتني وعدت لي وأنت تعلم التسبيح وتوفيق وتقين على كل شيء.
السلام على كلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا مسلما وما كان من المشركين. اللهم بك أصبحنا وبك أمسينا وبك نحيا وبك نموت وعليك نتوكل وإليك النشور. أصبحنا وأصبح الملك لله والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم إني أسألك خير هذا اليوم فتحه ونصره ونوره وبركته وهداه. اللهم إني أسألك خير هذا اليوم وخير ما فيه وخير ما قبله وخير ما بعده. أعوذ بك من شر هذا اليوم وشر ما فيه وشر ما قبله وشر ما بعده. اللهم ما أصبح بي من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك واشهد فلك الحمد ولك الشكر على ذلك. سبحان الله بحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله بحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله بحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله العظيم وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله العظيم وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله العظيم وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله عدد ما خلق في السماوات. سبحان الله عدد ما خلق في الأرض. سبحان الله عدد ما بين ذلك. سبحان الله عدد ما هو خالق. لا إله إلا الله. الحمد لله عدد ما خلق في السماء. الحمد لله عدد ما خلق في الأرض. الحمد لله عدد ما بين ذلك. الحمد لله عدد ما هو خالق. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما خلق في السماء. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما خلق في الأرض. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما بين ذلك. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما هو خالق. الله أكبر عدد ما خلق في السماء. الله أكبر عدد ما خلق في الأرض. الله أكبر عدد ما بين ذلك. الله أكبر عدد ما هو خالق. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما خلق في السماء. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما خلق في الأرض. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما بين ذلك. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما هو خالق. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وعلى كل شيء قدير عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وعلى كل شيء قدير عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وعلى كل شيء قدير عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد مفتاح باب رحمة الله عدد ما فيه من الله صلاة وسلام دائمين بدوام ملك الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين كذا فمن مرة. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا برحمة الله عدد ما فيه من الله صلاة وسلام دائمين بدوام ملك الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين مرة. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد المفتاح باب رحمة الله عدد ما فيه من الله صلاة وسلام دائمين بدوام ملك الله وعلى آله وصحبه عدد كل طرق من الله عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وعدد كلماته.
كتاب المنهج الصحيح شرح أصول طريقة السادة باع عليه.
تنبيه
تناولنا الإخلاص أو
نعم. باقي تنبيه في آخر الصفحة الثانية. صفحة 300 وشوية.
عند الرفق واللين
قبله
قبل الرفق يعني تخلصنا من الإخلاص.
أيوة.
أو نبدأ من الإخلاص لكونه ظالما أو غادرا أو غير ذلك مما يوجب النصح أن لا يقصد تذميمه وتنقيصه، وهكذا ينبغي أن يفعل فيما أشبه هذا، أن يقصد به الله عز وجل والنصح للمسلمين. ودليل صدقه في ذلك أن يحذر الناس حتى من أحب الناس إليه كولده إذا كان بهذه المثابة. انتهى كرة العين. الرفق واللين.
عندك الرفق واللين.
أيوة.
عاد عندي كلمات. عاد عندي. ومن الآداب أن يكون الداعي عالما ورعا حسن الخلق. أما العالم فلأن الدعوة مقام الأنبياء صلوات الله عليهم، والعلماء ورثة الأنبياء. وأما الورع فلأنه يكون آتيا ما يأمر به مجتنبا ما ينهى عنه، فتكون الحجة أكبر ويقع لكلامه موقع في القلوب وامتثال من المأمورين. وأما حسن الخلق فلأن صاحبه يتعاطى الرفق واللطف ويجانب الغلظة والعنف غالبا، فقد أمر الله بذلك سيد المرسلين صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم ووصفه به، فقال تعالى: ولو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك فاعف عنهم. فكان صلوات الله وسلامه عليه يلين القول لأجلاف العرب ويترفق بهم. وروى أبو أمامة رضي الله عنه أن شابا أتى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم فقال: يا رسول الله إذن لي في الزنا. فصاح به القوم، فقال صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: اتركوه. ثم قال للشاب: أدن مني. فدنا حتى جلس بين يديه فقال: لو أتحبه لأمك؟ قال: لا. جعلني الله فداك. قال: كذلك الناس لا يحبونه لأمهاتهم. قال: أتحبه لابنتك؟ قال: لا. جعلني الله فداك. قال: كذلك الناس لا يحبونه لبناتهم. أتحبه لأختك؟ حتى ذكر العمة والخالة، وهو صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يقول: كذلك الناس لا يحبونه. ثم وضع صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يده على صدره وقال: اللهم طهر قلبه واغفر ذنبه وحصن فرجه، فلم يكن شيء أبغض إليه من الزنا. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. The author of the book was still speaking about the importance of da'wah and calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after seeking knowledge. And he's speaking of some of the etiquette or some of the adab, some of the mannerisms of the da'i, the caller to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the first one he spoke about was al-ikhlas. The first one he spoke about was al-ikhlas. And then he said tanbihun. And this is I find it to be a very important, most of these things we discuss in the book and everything is important, but certain things stands out and has a certain amount of relevance, maybe more than others, particularly within our life, and specifically for the dua, for the callers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says tanbih, Imam Ahmad bin Zain al-Habshi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the student of Imam al-Haddad. He says it is necessary for the one who wants to warn people about dealing with a certain Muslim, on account of this Muslim perhaps being an oppressor or being someone who deceives others, أو غير ذلك, or any form of any form of behavior that the Muslim has, that the person feels he needs to warn people about his behavior. He's maybe a person he's not honest in his business dealings, he doesn't keep his word, you know. So in order not for others to be harmed by him, he feels that he needs to warn people. So he says it is necessary for that person that when doing so, he should not do it with the intention of humiliating that person or belittling that person. Sure. That's important. It's important. If you think about it, if you are warning someone against, say, entering into business with a certain person because you know that person is not honest in his business, in doing so, in your heart, your intention mustn't be that you belittling that person. Right? لا يقصد تذميمه وتنقيصه. Your intention is not to criticize him as a person or to warn people or belittle him as a person, but the intention should be that you dislike his action and you're warning people against his actions, not against him as a person. You're not humiliating him as an individual. وهكذا ينبغي أن يفعل فيما أشبه هذا أن يقصد به عز وجل والنصح للمسلمين. His intention must be, when he does things, that he does it for the sake of Allah and on account of advising the Muslims, not for his own ego. Because he nou iets aan mij gedaan. He did something unto me. Now I'm going to expose him. I'm going to say that Islam says that if someone does something wrong, I must warn people about his wrong. And now I go to the laundry with him. I wash him in front of everybody. It is only to the extent that people be warned of his actions. But your intention in your heart should never be to humiliate him as an individual. Intention should not be to humiliate him as an individual. And then he says, Haib bin Zain says, do you want to know whether you are sincere or if you're not sincere? What is the criteria for you determining whether you are sincere in your advice or you are insincere? He says the criterion to determine your sincerity is that you would take the exact same approach even if it was the most beloved people to you, like your own son. Would you do the same if it was your own son? Would you use the same language? Would you go out the same way to warn people? Or would it be different? You say, oh, that's my sin. Okay, now we must hide it, we must conceal it. No. Wat gaat mensen sê? Now, why couldn't you say in other instance? Why now when it came to your own, your approach was different and it was now someone else? See then, there's a lack of sincerity then. And هذه دقيقة, it's a very, very, very subtle point. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said when they came to him, Usama bin Zaid, he came to him and he said, Ya Rasulullah, some people approached me because of a punishment that's supposed to be inflicted, and they asked me that I must intercede by you if you can waiver the punishment. So في حد من حدود الله? Are you trying to seek intercession in a punishment that Allah had set down already? Are you trying to waiver it? Who are you? Because he was close to Rasulullah. So the Prophet told the Sahaba around him, so they know وأيما لو أن فاطمة بنت محمد سرقت لقطعت يدها. The same approach for him would have been for my own daughter to love. If she had stolen, I would have chopped her hands off. I would have chopped her hands. There's no difference. The mi'yar, the criteria in terms of the way we approach things, whether it is my own family, whether it is someone else, should be exactly the same. It should be no difference. Because we're dealing here, as a da'i, we're dealing with the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The deen of Allah, there can be no muhabba, no mudahana in it. Can be no shortcuts. Can be no favoritism. There can be no nepotism. You have to have a ma'yar, a criterion, and that criterion applies whether it is a strange person, whether it is your own family. And therefore, some of the Sahaba, when it came to those who hurt Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, إِذَنْ لِي أَنْ أَضْرِبْ عُنُقَهُ. Oh Rasulullah, give me permission to chop his neck off. And it was his own father. It was his own father. Ya Rasulullah. Not because my father, Ya Rasulullah, I said, pardon him, overlook him. Rasulullah, let I be the first person to do it. Let I be the person to set the straight. Even if it is my father. لا تجد قوما يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر يوادون من حاد الله ورسوله ولو كانوا آباءهم وأبناءهم أو إخوانهم أو عشيرتهم. You don't find people that believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the final day, and then they find an inclination to the path of those who the disbelievers and the enemies of Allah, even if those people who are on the other side, their own parents, their own children, their own spouses, their own clans, their own families, أولئك كتب في قلوبهم إيمانا. Those are the people who Allah had entrenched iman in their hearts. وأيدهم بروح منه ويدخلهم جنات تجري من تحت الأنهار خالدين فيها رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. Allah is indeed pleased with them and they are pleased with him. أولئك حزب الله. They are the party of Allah. They are the allies of Allah. They're not allies of their own desires. Now, if it goes their way, then they accept it. And if it doesn't go against their way, then they have a different approach. Like some person who this whole thing when the COVID came up, and it was the discussion of the closure of the masajid, and some of the people were very hard against closing the masjid, even prior to a statement being given by the ulama validating whether it is permissible or not to close the masajid. Eventually the statement got released and the masajid then got closed. And yet at that point in time some people were still disinclined to close the masajid. And they had the valid reasons, but some people's reasons were invalid. And the way we came to know how the reasons were invalid was that when they came to hear that their own family and they themselves were in contact with people that had COVID, so they were calling for the masajid to be closed. They said the masjid must never be closed. The doors of Allah must always be open. I agree with you. The doors of Allah's house must be open. And it's a valid argument. Right? Allah's house must always be open. But when the person heard that he was in contact with someone, or one of his family members, he said, no, this is becoming too risky now. We must close the masjid now because you were not exposed, or one of his family members were exposed. So now why is the criteria different now? When it came to other people, it was fine, the masjid must be open. And now when it came to yourself, your own safety being compromised, you said that the masjid must be closed. So the criteria always has to be applied throughout. The criteria has to be applied without any changes. Now, and that's why the author says can be warning or note, take note. وَدَلِيلُ صِدْقِهِ, and the sign of his sincerity is that he must be willing to warn his own those who are the people who's most beloved to him as his own child, if he is guilty of that same offense. مثلا, you find a person, they speak about a certain behavior in society, and he says, yes, this must be done, this is wrong, and he stands for it. As soon as his own family is guilty of it, then he takes very subtle approach, and he withdraws. Now he's no longer active. Now he's concealing things. Now he's justifying why. It could be. So why weren't you able to justify when it was the other person? Why were you quick to criticize the other person, but when it came to your own, you justify saying, hey, verstaan, environment, say Philander. Okay, the other people also, the Philander. Other people also the environment. The other people may even had a more valid excuse. So why didn't we seek an excuse in his instance? There's a daqiqah. There's a subtlety. The person's nafs and his ego wanted to expose someone else. Under the pretense, I am warning people against that person's wrongdoings. I don't want the people to get. Always search within your heart. Am I sincere? Would this be the same approach if it had been my own wife or my own son or my own brother or my own? Would my approach be the same or would it be different? ومن الآداب, and some of the etiquette, he says that the da'i, the caller to Allah, must be a scholar, wari'. He must have a certain amount of wara' in his life, scrupulous, and husn al-khuluq, and good behavior. Amma al-alim, as for knowledge, because calling people to Allah is the work of the prophets, and the ulama are the ears of the prophets. As for wara', because if he is someone who practices commands and he stays away and he refrains from that which he prohibits, then his proof and his message will have a greater impact within the hearts of people. But if he is someone, he says do so and he doesn't do it, and he says stay away from it but he does it, there will be no ta'thir for his kalam. وَأَمَّا حُسْنُ الْخُلُقِ, as for the good character, it is because the person, he will be subtle and he will be gentle, and he will refrain from harshness and violence in most cases. And the Prophet ﷺ was commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. If you had been harsh and hard-hearted, people would have dispersed away from you. فكان صلوات الله عليه يلين القول لأجلاف العرب ويتفرد. The Prophet ﷺ used to, the Bedouins that used to come to him, the layman, the common person, the general Bedouin that used to come to him, used to be kind, subtle. دعوه لي وهريقوا على بوله سجلا من ماء. Just a little bucket of water over. فإنما بعثتم ميسرين ولم تبعثوا معسرين. You've been sent as people, bring ease and not a means of difficulty to humanity. وروى أبو أمامة رضي الله تعالى, and Abu Umama narrated, says and this is, he gives an example. He says a youngster comes to the Prophet ﷺ and he says, Ya Rasulullah, i'dhan li fi zina, give me permission to commit zina. Oh, Ya Rasulullah. A youngster comes to Rasulullah and says, Ya Rasulullah, give me permission to zina. Picture, a youngster comes now and he walks to the front. Picture, he's sitting now here. We're sitting in a class, we're speaking about some tasawwuf stuff. Some stuff of the Ivy tasawwuf. The youngster comes in. He says, Shaykh Yusuf, give me permission to make zina. Right? How would we take that? How would we, what would our perception be of that person? Never mind, just in your heart. What in your heart goes, what crosses your heart in relation to that boy that comes down in that youngster? Comes in here. Just, I have to interrupt the class. No, I don't want to. I just want permission to commit zina. صاح به القوم. So the Sahaba, they were shouting at him. How can you, Rasulullah, how can you say something like that? فقال ثم قال الشاب, أدنو مني, come closer. Come closer to me. First thing, some of our teachers used to say, before actually getting into what he said, the fact that he felt comfortable to come to Rasulullah to ask such an absurd request. Everyone knows zina is haram. He knows it is haram because he would not have asked permission to commit zina if he never knew it was haram. In all, in all, shara'i', all laws and legislation, zina is something that is frowned upon. Previous sharia, zina was haram. All sharia, zina was haram. So your taba, your conscience finds reprehension in it. It dislikes it. The shara has prohibited it. So every single person knows this is not something that is recommended. And he says, Ya Rasulullah. But he, in his heart, he says that Rasulullah is the most merciful of people. He will understand if I ask him that I want permission to commit zina. So he comes to Rasulullah and says, I'idhan li fi zina. Permit me, Rasulullah, I want to commit zina. Rasulullah said, come closer. فدنا, so he come closer, حتى جلس بين يديه, until he sat right in front of Rasulullah in the gathering of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Sayyidina Umar. And Rasulullah drew him even more closer. Udnu minni, come to the right in front of him. So the Prophet told him, أتحبه لأمك. So now the Prophet addresses him based on his logic and his conscience. Would you be pleased if something like this be done to your mother? He said, Ya Rasulullah, ja'alani Allahu fida. May I be ransom for you? May my soul be ransom for you? No, I'll never. The Prophet says, كذلك الناس لا يحبونه لأمهاتهم. Similarly, other people dislike it to happen to their mothers. So Rasulullah says, أتحبه لابنتك? Would you be pleased if this happened to your own daughter? Ya Rasulullah, may my soul be ransom to you. كذلك, some of the people don't like it to happen to their own daughters. And the Prophet says, and what about your sister? And he takes your aunt, your maternal aunt, your paternal aunt. And the Prophet says, at every time he tells him, and so likewise people don't like it to happen to their sisters and to their aunts. And after the Prophet ﷺ now addressed his conscience, addressed his logically addressed the situation, and it makes enough sense that every single person you are going to be committing zina with is either the daughter of someone, or the mother of someone, or the sister of someone, or the aunt of someone, or the... So, in the same way you wouldn't like it to happen to your own, people dislike it to happen to them. So Rasulullah, after addressing his logic, Rasulullah, now comes the spiritual aspect. The Prophet puts his hand on the person's chest. And then the Prophet makes dua and says, Allahumma tahir qalbahu. Oh Allah, purify his heart. Waghfir dhanbahu, and forgive his sin. Forgive him for all his sin. Wahassin farjahu, and protect his private parts. And the Prophet lifts his hand. He says, فَلَمْ يَكُنْ شَيْءٌ أَبْغَضَ. The narrator says, فَلَمْ يَكُنْ شَيْءٌ أَبْغَضَ إِلَيْهِ مِنَ الزِّنَا. There was nothing more disliked to him than committing zina after that. الرفق واللين. Can you يا رب صل عليه. They say, the Sahaba used to say, فما, one of the companions, he says, فما رأيت معلما قط خيرا منه. I've never seen a teacher more better than Rasulullah. I've never seen anyone. الرفق واللين. الرفق واللين ومن آدابهم استعمال الرفق واللين فإن ذلك أدعى إلى القبول وأحسم لمواد الفتنة وأسد لأبواب الخصومة والشقاق. وقد ورد في الحديث إن الرفق لا يكون في شيء إلا زانه ولا ينزع من شيء إلا شانه. وورد أيضا إن الله رفيق يحب الرفق والرفق خير كله. قال سيدنا الإمام أحمد بن حسن عطاس نفع الله به: خصلتان يحتاج إليهما الداعي إلى الله والقاضي: اللين والسياسة. والإلزام إذا كان بهاتين الخصلتين لا يثقل. قال الله تعالى لسيدنا موسى عليه السلام: فقولا له قولا لينا لعله يتذكر أو يخشى. He says that the second quality after sincerity that a da'i, a caller to Allah, that the du'at, the callers to Allah must have, first is sincerity. Those who are standing as representatives of prophets in this dunya and they are calling people to Allah, sincerity. Your criteria in terms of applying your da'wah should be equal, whether it is your own or whether it is someone you don't know. Don't apply a certain measure when it comes to yourself and a different measure when it comes to others. Be kind and subtle in your approach when calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For doing that, it is more likely to get your message. If you are soft, kind, hearted, soft-natured, you are gentle, you are subtle in your approach. It resolves all disputes and it puts an end to all differences that may exist, arguments that can exist. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, the hadith comes in Sahih Muslim, on the narrative said Aisha, never is kindness to be found within something except that it beautifies it. And never is it extracted from something except that it removes the beauty from it, becomes ugly. And Allah is beautiful and Allah loves beauty. Or Allah Ta'ala is gentle and kind and Allah loves kindness. And another narration, الرفق خير كله. Everything about kindness and subtlety is khayr. And another narration, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُعْطِي عَلَى الرِّفْقِ مَا لَا يُعْطِي عَلَى الْعُنْفِ. Allah gives rewards for people being kind and gentle in the approach in a manner in which Allah does not reward for violence. And Imam Ahmad Hassan al-Attasi says two qualities that a da'i and a qadi, a judge requires. These two, al-lin wa siyasa. He has to be gentle, kind, and siyasa. He requires a certain amount of diplomacy. So he has to be diplomatic in his approach. I call it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wal ilzam, and asserting your point of view. When you possess those two qualities, you are gentle and you use diplomacy in your calling to Allah, it is more likely that people will accept it and it wouldn't be difficult for them to receive your advices. If when Nabi Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah Ta'ala tells him and Nabi Harun alayhi salatu wasalam, إِذَهَبَ إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ إِنَّهُ طَغَى. Go to Fir'aun. He has indeed transgressed. What should you do? فَقُولَا لَهُ, and speak to him قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا. Speak to him in a very kind, gentle manner. لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى. Perhaps it may be that he is reminded or he becomes fearful. Does Allah not know that Fir'aun is not going to accept? Does Allah not know that this is the same person that will say, أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى? Does Allah not know he's the same person that is going to attempt to kill Nabi Musa and Nabi Harun alayhi salatu wasalam? Allah knows. Yet Allah Ta'ala wants to teach each and every person after Nabi Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, they listen. فَقُولَ لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ. And therefore, further on, he narrates a story of Harun al-Rashid. He says, a scholar comes to Harun al-Rashid and he tells him, I want to give you advice, but I'm going to be hard on you. So just have sabr on what I'm going to tell you. So Harun al-Rashid says, rather keep your advice for yourself. لا تفعل. Keep your advice for yourself. because Allah Ta'ala had sent someone better than you to someone worse than me. I mean, Allah Ta'ala said Nabi Musa alayhi was better than you to Fir'aun, who was worse off than me. And Allah Ta'ala told Nabi Musa, فَقُولَ لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا. And Allah Ta'ala speak to him in a gentle way. So who are you trying to come tell me that I'm going to speak to you in a very harsh way? So he said, rather if you don't understand adab al-khitab, the etiquette of speaking and addressing and calling to Allah, then rather don't. Because then the damages you end up causing is greater than the benefits. The harm you cause is greater than the benefits. So the Haib Zain al-Jufri once he mentioned, and he says how important it is that a person should be kind in his approach, and he should perceive that whatever situation Allah places him in is a rahmah, a means of mercy, and he should always be a means of mercy to people wherever he finds himself, even if it is against the person who has wronged him. And then he says that this one scholar, a person, he was 8 years old already, and the person came to him and he said, he was a Muslim, but he lived a life of fasad. There is hardly a sin except that he committed zina, khamr, gambling, everything that you can think of transgressions he did. So he comes to the Shaykh and tells the Shaykh, I decided now to change my life, now to make tawbah now. So you think Allah will accept? He'll accept me. So the Shaykh said, what, you? After what you've done for 80 years, transgressing Jews, there's hardly a sin that exists except that you did it. You enjoyed the life and now you want to come. There's no tawbah for him. So he goes to another person and he tells the person, I did so and so. So he says, I know. Everyone knows what you did. He says, is the way that I can make tawbah? So the Shaykh said, obviously, tawbah is always open door. And so he says, yeah, but I went to another Shaykh. The other Shaykh told me that I can't expect to do all of this thing and now when I can make tawbah at the end of my life. So he said, no, just make tawbah to Allah. So he goes, this one alim, he goes to the Shaykh. And he says that, Shaykh, you know what happened? This person came to you and that person is known in the community for doing all the wrong, and he asked you if you can make tawbah, and he told you no, you can't make tawbah, and you know that the door of tawbah is open until. So the Shaykh said, yeah, but how does it make sense? We protect ourselves our whole life, and he's enjoying himself, and now you want to come to the end of his life and make tawbah, and then he wants to come make tawbah now. At the end of his life, and he want to be like us. We protecting ourselves for 50, 60 years of our life. So he says that is an example of a person who hasn't understood what the meaning of rifq and leen is. Because he is judging people based on him. How I've been staying away from haram, and now you did all the wrong, now you want to come back to tawbah now. How can you? This is unacceptable. Who is the one who dishes out Allah Ta'ala's forgiveness? You? Or is it Allah? Who's the one who dishes out Allah Ta'ala's mercy? You? Or is it? قال سيدنا الإمام أحمد بن إدريس المغربي رضي الله عنه إذا أردت أن ترشد أحدا أو تأمره أو تنهاه فابدأ بنفسك ثم بأهلك فإن عمر رضي الله عنه كان إذا أراد أن يأمر بشيء أو ينهى عنه لا يفعل حتى يبدأ بأهل بيته. Sayyidina Ahmad bin Idris al-Maghribi, he says, if you want to command people to do something, or you want to guide them towards something, or you want to prohibit them from something, then start by your own self and then your family. Start by your own self and your own family. For Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, you would never command people to do something or stay away from it, except that he had already started with his own family. This is very, very important, this piece of advice. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he spoke about sadaqah, he said that sadaqah starts at home, and he said wabda biman ta'wi, and start with their own dependence. And giving advice, good words, encouraging to do good, stay away from haram, is a sadaqah. So it's not only monetary that you need to start with your own family. Sadaqah starts at home. We say it. Don't we always say sadaqah starts at home? Kind, good akhlaq starts at home. Advice and da'wah starts at home. Spending on your family starts at home. There's an Egyptian saying, they say لو كان بيتك من إزاز ما تحدفش الناس بالطوب. If your house is made of glass, then don't throw people with stones. And you know, there's a common misconception within our community, where the people would say that die Sheikh's familie, se kinders, as die stoutste kinders. That's a general statement. The Sheikh's children as the most naughtiest of children. Stoutste kinders. But then here's that might be a reality, but here's a misconception. They say because the Sheikh never had time for his family, because he was too busy with community work. And that is wrong. You can never not be too busy for your family. Rasulullah was the most busiest of people, but yet he had time for his family. And his daughter and his children was the most pious of people. Sayyidatuna Fatima was the lady, the queen of Jannah, in Jannah. His grandchildren, Sayyidina Hassan and Hussein, is the masters of all youth in Jannah. And had it not been that we've seen our teachers prove us wrong, we might have thought that, you know, that is the reality. But we've seen how busy our teachers are. And yet, their children, as busy as they are, they have time for their children. And their children, in terms of the akhlaq, and in terms of the himma, in terms of the da'wah, follow the same path of their parents. So what is the problem? The problem is that we have fallen short of our own family. We are quick to advise and to counsel everyone else. When it comes to our children, we don't have time. When it comes to our family, we don't have sabr. Right? We don't have that patience when it comes to our own children. And it must just be like this, and whether we like it or not, when it comes outside, and I have more patience, and I have more sabr, and I have more diplomatic in my approach. When it comes to strange women, I have more excuses. When it comes to my own wife, I have no excuses. So, you see, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu would never start commanding anything or prohibiting unless he starts with his own family. Sayyidina Umar had a son, I just don't remember, Shaykh Yusuf, he had a son that he never spoke to for a long time because he had disagreement with him. I don't remember another name of it. It's not Sayyidina Abdullah bin Umar. It's one of his sons. Sayyidina Umar for a long time never spoke to his son because of a disagreement that he had with his son with regards to certain things. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to, when he was, in fact it was known that before he took Khilafah, he was more wealthy than after he took Khilafah. Because before he took Khilafah, he never used to receive a stipend from the Baytul Mal. And then after he became Khalifa, he used to receive a stipend. And then upon receiving the stipend, he used to say that this wealth doesn't belong to me. This wealth belongs to the Baytul Mal, belongs to the Muslims. I'm not allowed to take anything more than what suffices me and my family. So he used to struggle more after the Khilafah than there's the narrations of when he entered Baytul Maqdis, his top was patched. And he had so many patches on his top. I remember hearing one story where Sayyidina Umar and his wife wanted to buy some halwa. She wanted to purchase something sweet. And then she asked him, so he said, something sweet, it's not necessary. You don't have to buy it. That's after he became Khalifa. And he used to give his family, his wife, a stipend every week, or whenever he used to give a monthly, or daily, however they used to receive it. And then she used to take, she used to buy what she needs to buy, and then she takes a small amount and she put it away. She managed to cut. After a while, she managed to have enough money to buy this halwa, this something sweet that she wanted to buy. So she bought it, and said Umar comes home the next day or the night. And then she presents after the food, and she presents it. Said Umar says, where did you get this? Who gave it? And she said, no, I bought it. And Umar says, with what money? He says, the money you gave me. He says, but I thought we don't have money for this. So she said, no, what I did was I cut from the budget until I accumulated enough money to buy this. So she said, no, Umar said, how much is this? So she said, it was so much. She said, okay, next month I'm going to deduct this amount from my salary. Because we don't need it. If we have money to put away to buy this, then I don't need that money. وهكذا. Start with your own family. وإذا لنت في الخطاب كنت مقتديا بالكتاب والسنة وما عليك إلا أن ينفع وما عليك ألا ينفعك أمرك أو نهيك. It's another important piece of advice. He says, if you are gentle in your speech, meaning you approach the person you are calling in the most subtle manner, and you follow the kitab and the sunnah in doing so, good akhlaq, good character, then he says, whether your admonishment, or your command or your advice or your counsel, whether it is beneficial to the person or not, meaning whether it accepts it or doesn't accept it, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Whether the person accepts it or not, it's irrelevant. And why this is important is because many times we think that we need to change people. We don't need to change people. We need to convey the message. In alayka illa al-balagh. Allah tells the Prophet, all you need to do is convey the message. In alayka illa al-balagh. You just need to convey. You mustn't change the hearts of people. That is not your job. Your job is to convey the message. And it is for Allah to change the hearts. So he says, if the person doesn't listen, don't. That is not like Shaykh Yusuf was mentioning in the khutbah last week. He was saying that the Rasulullah said Allah Ta'ala told the Prophet this, his extreme yearning and desire for every person to accept the message. It used to take it difficult upon himself. It was difficult when people would not accept the message. So Allah Ta'ala told him, لَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ أَلَّا يَكُونُ مُؤْمِنًا. You are killing yourself. You are placing a great burden on yourself if they don't accept. إِن لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَسَفًا. فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ إِن لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَسَفًا فَلَا تَذْهَبْ نَفْسُكَ عَلَيْهِمْ حَسَرَةً. Don't go in a state of anguish and anxiety if they don't accept the message. إِنْ عَلَيْكَ إِلَّا فَذَكِّرْ إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُذَكِّرٌ. Be mindful, indeed you are a reminder. And he says, فَإِنَّ الْمَوْعِظَةَ كَالرِّيحِ. Advice is like a rih, like a wind that comes. تَجْمَعُ بَيْنَ الضِّدَّيْنِ تُطْفِئُ وَتُؤَجِّجُ. Advices is like a wind. It can have a contrast effect. It can have two opposite effects. On the one hand, it can put out something, and it can ignite something. On the one hand, it can put out something, you blow the candle dies. On the other hand, the wind can come and it will increase the fire. Right? So he says advice is like that. It has to one person it will have a certain effect. It will touch his heart. It will change his condition. And in another place, in another instance, make the person maybe more arrogant, or make the person dislike you more, or does not want to accept the advice. He said, قال تعالى وإذا ما أنزلت سورة فمنهم من يقول أيكم زادته هذه إيمانا فأما الذين آمنوا فزادتهم إيمانا ويستبشرون وأما الذين في قلوبهم رجس مرضوا فزادتهم رجسا إلى رجسهم وماتوا هم كافرون. When ayat came down, you know, the believers' condition used to say, who of you has this ayat be a means of, has it been a means of iman increasing? Whose iman is increased on account of this ayat? Allah says, as for the believers, the iman increased above زادت فزادت فأما الذين آمنوا فزادتهم إيمانا وهم يستبشرون. As for the believers, the iman had increased on account of that verse that was revealed. And as for the disbelievers, فزادتهم رجسا إلى رجسهم. It increased in nothing in disgrace and humiliation and distance. Then already what they find themselves in. وماتوا وهم كافرون. They die in a state of kufr والعياذ بالله يا رب يسلم. الله لا إله إلا الله. الله سبحانه وتعالى أعلى وأعلى. Any question? No question? عندكم كلام عندكم شيخ طاهر كلام لكم بعض المداخلات بعض النصائح يفيدون يريد دعوة شيخ دعوة So it's Abdullah bin Umar, not Umar ibn Khattab. What was his name? So the person that it was not Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, it was his son Abdullah bin Umar. And they say his son's name was Bilal. Bilal, the son of Abdullah bin Umar. And Abdullah bin Umar was known to be a very Abdullah bin Umar was very particular in the Sunnah of Rasulullah, extremely particular. And not only the Sunnah, the practices of Rasulullah, even though he might not have known the reason for it. And there was Sayyidina Abdullah bin Umar, there was a certain place that the Prophet when he walked, because there was a zab, or like a balcony that used to come out. So when Rasulullah used to come, they used to lower his head. And then after a while, they got taken away by Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab ta'ala anhu, because of, he said, inna dhalika yu'li, that hurts the people. People al-ma'ruf walking past, now they must lower their head because of this low porch or cantilever. And then it was removed. But when Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar used to come past, he used to lower his head. Even though it was no longer, I saw Rasulullah doing lowering his head when he came past. And then a certain place he used to turn, Rasulullah turned around. He saw Rasulullah turn around with his camel. And he used to come there and he used to turn around with his camel in the same way Rasulullah. كان شديد الحرص على سنة Rasulullah, and also following everything Rasulullah did to the finest detail. So one of the hadiths narrated, he says that the Prophet ﷺ said that a man should not prevent his family from coming to the masjid. His family referring to his children and his wife and his children. He should not prevent him from coming to the masjid. if obviously they comply with the conditions and they do not fall within a condition that prohibits females from entering the masjid, if it's permitted for them, then they shouldn't prevent. A man should prevent his family. But then his son, Bilal bin Abdullah, according to this narration, then he used to prevent his family from going to the masjid. And they came to Sayyidina Abdullah bin Umar's ears. And so Sayyidina Abdullah bin Umar told him, I hear that you're prohibiting your family from coming to Masjid. Rasulullah said that لا يمنعن أحدكم أهله من المساجد. You shouldn't prevent your family from coming to the masjid. He said, yes, but there's no space to prevent it this time. He said, I'm telling you, Rasulullah saying, and you telling me, but I think فهجر, and then he stayed away from him because of all that thing. The point you're making about that was? Yes, your family. Let's start with your own family. I said, it is not clean, you know, let's spill. But when someone else's child in the masjid, then you're gonna get aggravated and dan raak jy pas wel aggro. Ek hoor kan mos die kinders dissipline en but when it's his own. He sees a male speaking to a female, but when it's his own daughter, then it's fine. He looks at other people the way they dress, but when it's his own children, it's still fine, it's still small, and it's okay. Start with your own family. I'm document at home. Come on. Nothing. Get out. Get out. It's right here.
ربنا كما علمتنا رب علمنا الذي ينفعنا رب فرج لنا وقرابة لنا في ديننا
مع أهل الخطر أنثى وذكر ربي وفقنا ووفقهم لما ترتضي قولا وفعلا كرما وارزق الكل حلالا دائما
وأخلاق يا علماء
نحظى بالخير ونكفى كل شر ربنا واصلح لنا كل شؤون وأقر بالرضا منك العيون واقض عنا ربنا كل الديون
قبل أن تأتينا
واغفر استر أنت أكرم من ستر وصلاة الله تغشى المصطفى من إلى الحق دعانا والوفاء بكتاب فيه للناس شفاء
وعلى الآل الكرام شرفاء
وعلى الصحب المصابيح الغرر اللهم اهدنا بهداك
واجعلنا ممن يسارع في رضاك ولا تضلنا وليا سواك ولا تجعلنا ممن قال فاجر عصاك
وحسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم
صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم
يا ربنا اعترفنا بأننا اقترفنا وأننا أسرفنا على لظى أشرفنا فتب علينا توبة تغسل كل حوبة واستر لنا العورات وآمن الروعات واغفر لوالدينا ربي ومولودينا والأهل والإخوان وسائر الخلان وكل ذي محبة أو جيرة أو صحبة والمسلمين أجمع آمين ربي اسمع فضلا وجودا منا لا باكتساب منا بالمصطفى الرسول نحظى بكل سول بالمصطفى الرسول نحظى بكل سول بالمصطفى الرسول نحظى بكل سول صلى وسلم ربي عليه عد الحب وآله وصحبه عداد الطش السرب والحمد لله في
البدء والثناء سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على الحمد لله. الله لا إله